The missing tip sun was starting to set over Los Angeles. A soft golden light poured through the large windows of a quiet street-side pizza shop called Crust. It looked like any other pizza place: brick walls, a faded neon sign, the smell of garlic in the air. But what most people didn't know was that the man who started this chain had once delivered pizzas himself just to pay rent. His name? Keanu Reeves. It was a quiet evening when Keanu walked in, wearing an old hoodie, jeans, and sunglasses. No one recognized him. He liked it that way. He didn't need to be known. He just wanted to see his business from the ground level, to feel what the customers and workers felt, to see what the company had become. He had just landed back in town after filming overseas and hadn't been to one of his own pizza stores in over a year. But something had been bothering him for weeks. He had received a handwritten letter from a former driver, one he didn't know personally, but the words had hit him hard. The letter had said, "I loved working for Crust, but I had to leave." The tips stopped showing up. Customers kept saying they added it online, but we never saw it. Maybe the system's broken. Maybe someone's taking it, but I couldn't afford rent anymore. Thanks for the good memories. Keanu had read that letter 5 times. He had carried it in his jacket for a week. So now, here he was, walking into one of his busiest stores, pretending to be just another customer. A tall teenager with nervous energy stood behind the counter. He smiled. "Hi, welcome to Crust. What can I get you?" Keanu smiled back and said, "Just a large pepperoni, extra cheese, and delivery, please." The teen hesitated. "You want it delivered? But you're here in the store." Keanu nodded. "Yeah. I want to see how fast it gets to me. Just humor me." The kid laughed. "Sure, man. No problem." Keanu paid in cash, gave his hotel address nearby, and walked out without another word. He watched from across the street as the delivery order came in. Within minutes, a young man in his 20s rushed through the back door, holding a pizza bag. He wore a Crust uniform and looked like he hadn't slept in days. Keanu followed on foot, staying far behind. The driver pulled up to the hotel and knocked on the door to Keanu's room. Keanu opened it slowly. "Pizza for Mr. John?" the driver asked. "That's me," Keanu said. He watched as the driver handed over the pizza. The kid looked tired, sweaty, but still polite. Keanu handed him a $20 bill. The driver looked down, confused. "Sir, it says here you already tipped on the app. $5. Keanu's eyes narrowed. "I paid cash. It says electronic tip right here on the receipt," the driver added, showing his screen. Keanu froze. His stomach turned. Something was wrong. He thanked the driver, took the pizza, and closed the door. Then, he sat on the bed and opened his phone. He pulled up the receipt from the store's app. He hadn't tipped online. There was no option for a tip at all. Yet, it showed up on the driver's app as if he had. He called the store. The teen picked up. "Crust, thank you for calling." Keanu cleared his throat. "Hi, I just ordered pizza from your place. I tipped cash, but your system shows I tipped $5 online." The line went quiet for a second. Then the teen mumbled, "Yeah, that's automatic. The app puts it in. But we don't see that money." Keanu's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" "We don't get those tips. They go into the system. But I heard from drivers they don't get passed down. Something about administrative fees. I don't know the details." Keanu hung up. He sat on the bed, stunned. His heart raced. He had trusted a third-party tech company to manage the delivery system, something his business partner had handled. But now, something wasn't adding up. He looked at the receipt again. Tip, $5, digital. His own company, his own drivers. And someone was taking their tips. His hands trembled slightly. He wasn't just angry, he felt ashamed. Ashamed that he hadn't seen this earlier. He thought of the letter again. He pulled pulled it out from his jacket pocket, and read the last line. "Thank you for starting this place. It used to feel like home." Keanu knew what he had to do. He wasn't going back to set. He wasn't flying anywhere. Was staying in Los Angeles. He was going undercover again. But this time, not as a customer. This time, he would be a delivery driver. Starting tomorrow. He was going to find out exactly what was happening to his people. And he wasn't going to rest until every single one of them got what they deserved. Fair pay. Real tips and respect. Because to him, they weren't just workers. They were family, and family doesn't get stolen from. Not on his watch. The driver's world. Next morning, Keanu woke up early. His eyes were heavy, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight in his heart. He had run through the plan in his head a dozen times the night before. He wasn't going to barge into the company boardroom or call lawyers just yet. He needed to feel it. He needed to walk in their shoes. So he changed his name in the crust system, signed up using a burner email, and requested a shift as a delivery driver. The process was automated. Within 10 minutes, he got the approval. Nobody looked twice at the name Cal Ryan. They just saw a new driver willing to start today. He showed up at a different crust branch, one about 20 minutes outside the city. It was in a rougher neighborhood. Graffiti on the walls, broken sidewalks, and a worn-out front sign that blinked with broken letters. F_RECR_SD. Keanu pulled up on a rented bike. He didn't want to drive his real car and blow his cover. He wore a cheap helmet, a dusty hoodie, and jeans that had seen better days. As he stepped inside, a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes stood behind the counter. She barely glanced up. "You must be the new guy," she said. He nodded. "Yeah, name's Cal." "Great," she said. "You're late." Keanu looked at his watch. He was 5 minutes early. But he said nothing. He simply smiled and replied, "Won't happen again." She handed him a small delivery bag and a phone with the crust app installed. "Orders come in through here. We don't get many during the day, but the dinner rush will kill you." Keanu looked around. The kitchen was small. 2 teenage cooks moved around silently. One had headphones on. The other was slicing mushrooms like he hated them. The air smelled of burnt crust and regret. "So how do tips work here?" Keanu asked, pretending to be casual. The woman didn't even look up. "They don't." "Sorry? Digital tips?" "Yeah. Forget about them. They don't go to us. Company says they're still processing or part of a tech fee or some crap. If you want a tip, hope the customer gives it in cash." Keanu's throat tightened. What if they say they tipped online? She looked him in the eye now. For the first time, they always do. We smile, we nod, and then we go home with empty pockets. The words hit Keanu like a hammer. He felt rage building inside. But he didn't let it show. He took his phone clipped, the delivery bag over his shoulder, and stepped outside. It didn't take long before the first order came through. Order number 149, large veggie supreme, garlic knots. Address, 2083 Vernon Street. Keanu punched in the location on the map and started pedaling. The sun was high now. Sweat ran down his back. He was dressed like everyone else. No one knew his name. No one recognized his face. And somehow it felt like a deeper truth than any film he'd acted in. By the time he reached the house, his legs were burning. A woman in her 40s opened the door, smiling. "Oh, thank you," she said, handing him the money. "I added a tip online, just so you know." Keanu smiled gently. "Thank you. Appreciate it." But as he walked back to the bike, he checked the receipt. No cash tip. Only the automated $3 online, which he knew he wouldn't see. He took 3 more orders that day. And each time, the same story repeated. "Thanks. I added a tip online." He nodded. He smiled. And he felt like a thief. Because the customers weren't the problem. They thought they were helping. They thought the drivers were getting the money. but someone somewhere was taking it. At the end of the shift, Keanu returned to the store. The woman behind the counter, whose name tag read Maria, handed him a bottle of water and said, "Tough first day?" Keanu chuckled softly. "I've had worse." She leaned on the counter. "Don't take it personal, Cal. It's just how things work. Tips used to be better. Now they vanish into the system. We complained. No one listened. We got mouths too. Feed, so we keep going." Keanu wanted to say something. Wanted to scream that he was the owner, that this was wrong, that things were going to change, but not yet. He needed more. He needed to see how deep it went. That night, he sat on the floor of a small rented apartment. He didn't turn on the lights. He just sat there, thinking, listening to the city hum outside. He pulled out his phone and started making notes. Names, stores, dates, patterns. He was going to gather every piece of proof, and then he was going to confront the people responsible. But first he needed to meet the drivers. The real ones, and hear their stories. He opened the delivery group chat that was built into the crust driver app. Dozens of messages popped up. Anyone else notice that tips dropped again? I got a $10 tip last week. App says it never came through. Don't bother asking support. They just send a bot reply. Keanu typed in a message. Anyone in law want to meet up? I just started. Would love to learn from the crew. Few seconds passed. Then one reply came in. We meet at the old lot behind the Dollar Mart at 9. Come if you're serious. Keanu stared at the message. Tomorrow night, he would meet them, and nothing would be the same after that. He closed his eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. His heart ached, not just because his company was failing its people, but because he had let it happen without knowing, and now he had to fix it. No matter the cost. The lot behind the truth. Next night, the air was colder. The sky above Los Angeles looked heavy, like it was holding back tears. Keanu stood behind the Dollar Mart, just like the message had said. The lot was cracked and empty, except for a few rusted cars and a flickering streetlight that hummed like a warning. He wore the same hoodie and helmet. His fake driver phone buzzed in his pocket, but he ignored it. Tonight wasn't about orders. Check the time, 8:57 p.m., 3 minutes early. He waited. At 9:02, headlights appeared. One by one, old cars rolled in. Some on their last breath, others just dented and dusty. Drivers stepped out slowly, each carrying tired eyes and the kind of silence that only came from people who had worked too long for too little. Young man with a nose ring and a limp walked over first. "You're the new guy?" he asked, squinting. Under the light, Keanu nodded. "Yeah, name's Cal." The guy nodded back. "I'm Dev." "That's Sam, Ruby, Harish, and over there's Tommy." They all gave quick nods. Nobody smiled. Keanu felt like he was entering something sacred. A shared pain. A brotherhood of struggle. They gathered in a circle near an old crate. Ruby, a tall woman with sharp eyes and oil-stained jeans, lit a cigarette and broke the silence. "So, Cal," she said, "what made you want to meet?" Keanu looked at each of them. He could see it now, the tired skin, the bruises on knuckles, the wear on their shoes. "I heard the same thing from everyone," he said. "The app takes your tips. No one does anything." "I just want to know the truth," Ruby snorted. "Truth? You sure you want it?" He nodded. Harish stepped forward. He looked older than the rest, maybe in his 40s. His voice was soft. "We've been talking about this for months," Harish said. "It started small, a missing dollar here, a $5 tip disappearing there. Now it's every day. Customers say they tipped. App says it's processing. We never get it." Dev added, "They changed the payment system last year. No notice, just said updates. Now the tips vanish, and when we ask, they tell us to wait 3 to 5 business days." "Those days never come," Ruby said. Keanu pulled out his phone. "Can I record this?" They hesitated. Then Tommy, a young guy with messy hair and broken glasses, nodded. If it helps fix things, yeah, record it. Keanu tapped the record button. And for the next hour, they told their stories. Ruby once worked double shifts for a whole week and was promised her digital tips would show up later. They never did. Dev got a 1-star rating because a customer thought he stole a tip, even though the app took it. Harish showed a screenshot of a $12 tip, still marked as pending from 2 months ago. Keanu listened, heart sinking deeper with every word. Then Tommy said something that made everyone go quiet. I had to sleep in my car last week, he said, because I counted on those tips to pay rent. I never saw a dime. No one said anything for a long time. Finally, Keanu asked, have you guys ever met anyone from corporate? Ruby laughed bitterly. What do you think? They sit in their glass towers. We're ants to them. We bleed, they profit. Keanu's hand tightened into a fist. He had built fire crust with hope, with memories of his own delivery days. He had once given out free pizzas to single mothers and tipped drivers out of his own pocket. How had it turned into this? He turned off the recorder. Listen, Keanu said. What if someone powerful actually listened? What if this story got out? Ruby looked at him. Her eyes narrowed. You planning to go viral or something? Not viral, he said quietly. Just truth. To the right ears. Dev shook his head. Even if you do, they'll deny it. They always do. Keanu stood up. Not if we have proof. They all stared. Then he did something none of them expected. He pulled off his helmet. Then his HOODIE. Ruby gasped. Wait. Dev blinked. You're Keanu. Raised a hand. Please, not now, just listen. The group fell into stunned silence. I'm sorry, Keanu said, voice trembling. I had no idea this was happening. I trusted others to run the digital side of the company. That's on me. Harish looked down. Ruby turned away, jaw tight. I started this place so people like you would have a job with dignity, Keanu continued. Not to be cheated, not to be broken. Tommy wiped his eyes. I'm not here to give a speech, Keanu said. I'm here to fix it. Ruby finally looked him in the eye. How? First, he said, pulling out the phone again. We gather every message, every receipt, every voice. And then, we confront the ones in charge. You're serious, Dev whispered. Dead serious. Keanu said. Harish looked around at the others. I think we believe him. They all nodded. Keanu walked toward his bike, then turned back. Meet me here tomorrow night. Same time. Bring everything. We're going to build a wall of truth. Ruby smirked. You're gonna bring down your own company? Keanu's eyes burned with fire. If it's hurting people, then yes. He pedaled into the night, wind hitting his face, heart pounding with both fear and purpose, because sometimes, to rebuild something right, you have to be willing to burn the broken parts down. The wall of truth next evening, long before the sun even set, Keanu was already at the lot. He sat on a crate with a notebook in his lap and a bottle of water by his side. His heart beat slow, steady. He was calm, but there was a storm building inside him. That it wasn't just about money anymore, that it was about betrayal, that it was about the kind of pain you can't see but you feel in every bone, and he knew deep down that this night would change everything. At 8:45, headlights began rolling in again. Ruby came first, carrying a brown folder packed with papers. Dev showed up next, his limp worse than the day before, but his eyes focused. Then came Tommy, Harish, Sam, and 3 new drivers. They had invited Julio, Brenda, and Naima. All of them carried worn expressions, as if life had taught them not to expect too much. They greeted Keanu with nods. No one asked for photos, no one screamed. They weren't here for a movie star. They were here for something real. This is everything I've got, Ruby said, handing Keanu the folder. Screenshots, messages, payment history. Even the auto-generated emails from support. He opened it. Page after page of evidence. I printed mine too, Tommy said, handing over a stack. My receipts and bank statements from the past 3 months. Julio, one of the new drivers, added quietly. I used to think it was just me. I almost quit last week. Me too, said Brenda. But I got a kid. Couldn't risk it. Keanu felt the weight of their stories in his hands. We're not just delivery people, Harish said. We're the face of Fire Crust. When something goes wrong, they blame us, not the app. Not the system, just us. Nima added, you should have heard what one customer said to me. Called me a liar because she thought I pocketed her tip. She cried at the door. I cried in the car. Dev looked at Keanu. So what now? Keanu stood up. His voice was low but powerful. Tomorrow morning, we walk into the head office. They stared. We? Ruby asked. Yes, Keanu nodded. All of us. We walk in together. I want you by my side, with the proof. With your voices. I want them to look you in the eye and explain where your tips went. Nima took a step back. Won't they fire us? Keanu paused. Then said something they never expected. They can't fire you from a company you now own. The lot fell silent. What? Tommy whispered. Keanu looked around. I've been working on something else behind the scenes. I can't explain all of it now. But the business structure of Fire Crust is about to change. I've already been moving shares out of private control. There's a plan to turn this into a worker-owned model, profit sharing, tip transparency. A true cooperative. No one moved. Brenda blinked slowly. Are you serious? Dead serious, Keanu said. Dev laughed in disbelief. You want us to co-own Fire Crust? I want you to have a voice, Keanu said. And tomorrow, that starts with walking into that room. But they won't listen, Ruby said. Corporate never listens. Keanu's face grew sharper. They will when I walk in first. That night, the group stayed longer than usual. They rehearsed what they would say. They reviewed every piece of proof. Keanu typed up a document titled Driver's Report on Digital Tip Fraud. It was 14 pages long with names, timestamps, transaction IDs, and a breakdown of lost wages. This isn't just about us, Harish said at one point. This is about every driver across every city. Keanu nodded. We fix it here first. Then we go national. Before they left, Ruby handed him a small piece of paper. On it were 4 words. We carry the fire. My dad used to say that, she said. He was a janitor, worked nights. He always said, we may be small, but we carry the fire. It means we keep the light alive, no matter how dark it gets. Keanu took the paper and placed it in his pocket. They parted ways in silence. But the kind of silence that comes before a storm, not the kind where people aren't afraid anymore, the kind where hope starts to breathe again. The next morning, 10 o'clock. A.M. Fire Crust headquarters, a tall glass building, stood in the middle of downtown. Clean, modern, and cold. A receptionist at the front desk looked up in surprise when she saw a group of delivery drivers walking in together. 7 of them, led by a man in a hoodie and jeans. And that man was Keanu Reeves. The staff's eyes widened as they realized who he was. Phones were pulled out. Whispers began, but Keanu didn't stop. He walked straight into the elevator and pressed the button to the 19th floor. Behind him, Ruby clutched the folder tight. Tommy whispered to Dev, I can't believe this is happening. Double quotes. Dev replied, we carry the fire, right? When the doors opened, the air shifted. Executives sat behind desks in a wide conference room. They looked up. Stunned. Some stood. Keanu walked in slowly. He placed the folder on the glass table. Then looked at every single face in the room. You know who I am, he began, but that doesn't matter right now. I'm not here as an actor. I'm here as a man who built something with hope, and now sees it being stolen. He tapped the folder. This is proof that our digital tip system is broken, or worse, being misused. An executive tried to speak. Keanu, we've reviewed. He raised his hand. I'm not finished. The room froze. I've walked the streets, delivered your pizzas, talked to your drivers, slept in the same small apartments they do. I've seen what they go through, and it's not just unfair, it's shameful. Ruby stepped forward. We trusted this place. You broke that trust. Keanu looked at her, then back at the board. You will issue a full audit of every digital tip from the last 12 months, and you will pay back every dollar owed, plus damages. A man in a suit coughed. You don't have the authority. Keanu stepped closer. I do. Because as of this morning, I own 51% of Fire Crust's voting shares. Gasps filled the room. And today, Keanu said, we're rewriting the rules. He opened the folder. You have 1 hour to start the audit, or we go public, every news outlet, every influencer. And I will personally stand in front of your office every day until the last driver gets what they're owed. The board sat in stunned silence. One woman whispered, we didn't know. We thought it was just delays. Keanu's voice cracked. Slightly. People are sleeping in their cars while you blame the system. The room went quiet. And then Ruby said it. The words that echoed through the floor. We carry the fire. Keanu nodded. Double quotes. And starting today, he said, we let it burn the lies away. Asterisk, ashes of greed. Sparks of change. As sun poured through the tall windows of the Fire Crust headquarters like it had never before. But for the first time, that light wasn't just decoration. It felt like truth had finally stepped in. An hour had passed since Keanu laid down the files. 60 long, tense minutes. Outside the conference room, whispers spread like wildfire. Someone had leaked that Keanu Reeves was upstairs with a group of drivers, demanding an audit. Employees peeked down the hall, watching the quiet rebellion unfold. Inside, the executives sat like statues, some pale, some sweating, some fuming in silence. Keanu stood tall beside Ruby, Dev, Harish, and the rest of the group. None of them spoke now. The words had already been said, the evidence already laid out. They were just waiting for a response, for justice, for decency. Then, at 11:07 a.m., the head of operations, a short, bald man with cold eyes named Martin, cleared his throat. We've reviewed the documents. The numbers are troubling. Keanu didn't move. He just stared. We contacted the third-party payment platform, Martin added, nervously adjusting his collar. They confirmed. Tip transactions were redirected through a secondary account. That account was marked administrative handling. Keanu's voice was calm but cutting. Where did that money go? Martin hesitated. Some of it, too. An internal holding wallet. Some, we don't know yet. Ruby took a step forward, slamming a palm on the table. You don't know? You've been taking our tips for over a year, and you don't know? Martin looked down. This was managed by a now terminated partner. We didn't realize the depth of it. Tommy laughed bitterly. You didn't realize, or you didn't care? The room fell silent again. Keanu looked over to a young assistant seated near the wall. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through a spreadsheet. He walked over to her gently and asked, Can you tell me how much is missing? Her voice was quiet, like a child admitting something terrible. As of this morning, $326,000. The drivers gasped. Brenda single quotes. His hand covered her mouth. Keanu single quotes. His jaw clenched. But he stayed steady. That money, he said, will be returned to the drivers. Every last cent. And you will write an apology, not just as a press release, but handwritten, signed, and delivered to every single one of them. Martin tried to object. That's excessive. Keanu turned to him, eyes blazing. What's excessive is people sleeping in their cars while you profit off lies. There was nothing left to argue. The board had no weapons left. Fine, Martin said, defeated. We'll begin the repayments. And the apology. But Keanu wasn't finished. And there's more, he said. Everyone looked up. He placed a second folder on the table. This is the transition plan. Firecrust is becoming employee-owned. Profit shares, open accounting, and a tip system that flows directly from the customer to the worker. No middle hands, no delay, no theft. One of the executives stood up in panic. You're gutting our power. I'm restoring balance, Keanu said. You forgot what this company was built for. You lost the soul of it. But these people, he gestured to the drivers beside him, they never did. Ruby stepped forward and said something that would stay with everyone in that room forever. You thought we were invisible. But today, you had to look us in the eye. Later that afternoon, the lot behind Marth drivers were back. At their sacred spot, only this time. They weren't slouched or tired. They were laughing, hugging. Ruby held up her phone and shouted, "It's official. Audit email just hit my inbox. They're doing it." "They're really doing it," Harris showed a text. "My old co-worker in another city just got called about the tip repayments." Keanu stood among them, a warm smile on his face. Tommy ran over and hugged him without warning. "You saved us." Keanu hugged him back. "No, we saved each other." Dev walked over, holding a Firecrust delivery bag. "You know what this used to feel like? Like a burden. Now, it feels like armor." The group laughed. Brenda handed out cold sodas, like they were celebrating a holiday. Even the sky looked different. Like the clouds had lifted. Like the air itself was lighter. Keanu pulled Ruby aside. "You said your dad used to say we carry the fire." "Yeah," she said, wiping a tear from her cheek. "He'd be proud today." Keanu took the paper she had given him that night and placed it gently into his notebook. "You know," he said, "I think the fire finally reached the top." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the others celebrate. Then Ruby asked softly, "What happens next?" Keanu looked out toward the city. "We build something even better. Together." Next day, national news story exploded. Every major outlet picked it up. Keanu Reeves uncovers fraud at his own pizza chain, repays workers, gives them ownership. Videos of the confrontation at headquarters went viral. People around the country applauded the drivers. Strangers donated to help them pay bills, while the refunds were processed. And customers began ordering again, not out of habit, but out of belief. Because Firecrust wasn't just a brand anymore. It was a symbol. Of second chances, of truth. Of justice. 2 weeks later, a message from Keanu, a video posted on Firecrust's official page, showed Keanu sitting in a delivery car, holding the steering wheel, with a soft smile on his face. "Hi, I'm Keanu, and if you ever ordered from us, thank you. But more than that, thank the people who brought your food, the drivers, the workers, the backbone of this company." He paused. "We lost our way for a while, but we found it again. And from now on, every tip you give goes straight into the hands of the people who earn it." He smiled wider. "We don't just deliver pizzas anymore. We deliver dignity." The last nearly 3 months had passed since the storm. The building that once held cold corporate meetings now echoed with new energy. Every corner of Firecrust, every office, every store, every delivery van was no longer run from the top down, but from the inside out. And it all started with a single missing tip. Keanu Reeves, dressed in a plain t-shirt and jeans, walked into a Firecrust store on Sunset Boulevard. This one looked different now. Workers laughed at the counter. The tip jar overflowed with bills and handwritten thank you notes. A large chalkboard on the wall read, "You are not just a customer. You are a part of this story." A girl at the register noticed him. "Hi, welcome to Firecrust." Keanu smiled. "Hi. I'd like a small margarita, to go." She took his order, then added quietly, "Thank you." "For everything." He paused, then nodded. "You're welcome. But this place, it belongs to you now." He took his pizza and stepped outside. Across the city, a ripple became a wave at a small store in Inglewood. Dev now trained new hires. His limp still slowed him down, but he wore it like a badge. He told every trainee, "This job isn't just about pizza. It's about standing for what's right." At another branch in Santa Monica, Ruby sat in a chair beside a glowing driver of the month board. Except now, it wasn't just one photo, it was a collage. Every driver got their turn. She pointed to one and smiled. "That's Brenda. She's a single mom. First one to get her overdue tips fully repaid." Tommy, now the youngest co-manager at a store in East Lay, helped launch a new program. It was called First Ride Fund. An emergency pot drivers could borrow from to cover rent, gas, or groceries. It came from company profits. Every driver voted on where the money went. No red tape. Just care. At Firecrust HQ, the new E-Wraith company structure had changed. The board now included 2 drivers, a kitchen worker, and a part-time cleaner. Everyone had a voice during the monthly open meeting. Harris stood and addressed the room. "When we spoke up, we weren't sure anyone would listen. But someone did, and now look where we are." He raised a small paper. "This is my daughter's school fee receipt, paid in full. Because I finally got the tips I was promised. Thank you." The room clapped. Media attention faded. But the impact stayed. Other companies noticed. 2. National delivery chains began investigating their own tip systems. A senator called for legislation to protect gig workers' digital payments. People around the world shared the video of Keanu confronting his own board. It was used in business schools, in documentaries, in motivational speeches. But Keanu never made a big show of it. He kept showing up. Sometimes he visited random stores. Sometimes he rode along with drivers just to talk. Once he showed up at Nema's birthday party. He brought a cake and told her, "Thank you for staying when it was hard." She cried. He hugged her like a brother. One last moment in a quiet evening, Keanu stood once again behind the Dollar Mart, the place where it all began. The lot was mostly empty now, but Ruby was there, leaning on her car. "You really changed it," she said. "We did," he corrected. They watched the sun set. "You remember what you said?" Ruby asked. "About building something better?" "I do." "You did that," she whispered. Keanu took out the folded piece of paper she had given him months ago, the one that read, "We carry the fire." It was creased now, worn from his pocket, but the words still burned clear. He held it out to her. She smiled and said, "Keep it." "You sure?" "Yeah, just promise me one thing." "What's that?" "Keep walking the last mile." He looked at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" She explained, "We always say that in the delivery world, the last mile is the hardest. It's where people forget you, where the road's cracked and you're tired. But that's where the work matters most. So promise me, you'll never stop walking the last mile." Keanu looked at her, deeply moved, then nodded. "I promise." Epilogue. 1 year later, Firecrust celebrated its anniversary under the new model. Over 400 drivers now co-owned part of the company. The digital tip system was open source. Any customer could track where their money went, from screen to driver. A young woman wrote in a review, "I didn't just get a pizza. I got hope delivered to my door." Keanu walked into a school in Los Angeles one morning to meet Tommy. Tommy was there to speak at Career Day. He wore a Firecrust polo. The students were restless. But as he spoke, their eyes grew wide. He told them about standing up when no one else would, about the importance of telling the truth, about not waiting for heroes, but being the ones to rise when the moment calls. Afterwards, a small boy came up to him and said, "I want to be a driver one day." Tommy laughed. "You can be anything you want. Just don't let anyone steal your tips." Final Senna Keanu sat alone one evening. Watching the stars from his porch. He picked up his notebook. Flipped through pages. There it was again. We carry the fire. He closed his eyes and smiled, because now that fire was everywhere. And it would never go out again. Asterisk.